and the viewing and listening audience. The Ministry of Health is happy to be here this morning to discuss our ongoing efforts to control the COVID-19 pandemic and our efforts to ensure that our population remains protected, but also that our population is informed about all that is occurring. So far, all right, and I've said this in other settings as well, so far we have managed to control the COVID pandemic here locally, all right? And for a country as small as ours, and with the resources that we have to work with, this in itself is a remarkable achievement. Of course, it has come at great cost economically. Our normal way of life has significantly changed. The amount of stresses that there is out there, and for varying reasons, is notably more. But in addition, maybe in part due to the successes that we've had, there is a great deal of complacency that has set into the population. But the thing is, we have many reasons to be concerned. Grenada does not exist in this world in isolation, and we cannot ignore what is happening in the rest of the world. Our public needs to bear in mind that, as I've said before, this pandemic is far from over. If you look at what is happening, the devastation that is occurring in many parts of the world, it has to shock everyone that this is occurring more than a year after this pandemic has started. All right? We see these graphic images of what is occurring in many parts of the world. When we look at countries like India, and we know that India has been very generous to the region, providing us with vaccines so that we can start our vaccination programs. But when we look at the devastation that is being caused in a country with such a level of development, we should all be concerned. But even closer to home, let's look at our neighbors to the south. We see an upsurge in cases in Trinidad. We see our other neighbors have, since the COVID virus has had a foothold, that has established a foothold in all of these countries that are very similar to ours, they have so far not been able to get rid of it, and many of them continue to have community spread. So we are surrounded. We remain surrounded by countries that have community spread of COVID. Because we have had no significant outbreaks here locally to speak of, it means that most of our population is still vulnerable. The level of immunity is low. And we know that folks are tired. We are tired. We are tired about even hearing the term COVID. All right? We are tired about not being able to just go out and do as we like. We are tired about not being able to assemble as we would like. All right? We are tired of the toll that it is having on our psyche. the toll that it is having on our children, all right? The toll that it is having on families in general, where persons are no longer able to work for quite some time, all right? So we would like to come back to some level of normalcy. However, another concern that we have, in addition to the high level of complacency, all right, persons just want to get on with their lives, we have a high degree of hesitancy towards vaccination, which is one important tool that we have to end this pandemic. So we have hesitancy, yes, but we have some level of defiance as well. Of course, we know we have individuals that work at various levels in this country, and some of them are classified as frontline. So what is of particular concern is the hesitancy among our frontline workers to get vaccinated, and lately more concerning, the outright defiance against vaccination, but in addition to testing when there is possible exposure to COVID-19. So we have individuals who, they don't want the vaccines. When the Ministry of Health reaches out, when there is a potential exposure, it could be in one place or the other, these individuals are defiant and are resisting testing. All right, they do not want to be tested. All right, so all of these challenges are compounding our situation. Now, how long our fortunes will continue is in our hands. How long Grenada will continue to be this bubble, because that is basically what we are, where there are no cases occurring in the community. All right, how long it is in our hands. Whether what is happening in other countries will happen here, whether we will have a major outbreak, all right, all of this is in our hands. All right, right now the objective of the Ministry of Health is recognizing all of these issues. One, we continue to work hard to prevent COVID from coming in. So all our controls at ports of entry remain. We continue to recommend all of the infection prevention measures that will stop the spread of disease in the community. So we continue to encourage everyone to wear your mask, to avoid situations that are crowded, where you are in close contact with other individuals, which facilitates the spread of disease. We urge everyone to continue to maintain the sanitary measures. And we ask everyone to be vigilant. If you have symptoms of disease, you report to the Ministry of Health, you get tested, you quarantine when required, you isolate if that is required as well. So we continue to recommend all of these to prevent infection, because that is our best option. Prevention is Grenada's best option. Everyone is aware of the resource constraints that we have. So we have to put a lot of effort into prevention. Dr. Mayana is going to give you a brief update, Dr. Charles, a brief update and elaborate a little on vaccination. And I know that one question that will remain in the minds of many is, given the situation that they know that Grenada has, given the fact that they know that our healthcare infrastructure is vulnerable. All right? We don't have enough staff, we don't have enough resources, we don't have, you name it. Why persons continue to be hesitant to get vaccinated? At least protect yourself so you will not be a burden on the system in the event that our fortunes change. And I mean, I've come up with a series of reasons as to why. We know that misinformation is one of them. All right? There is a strong and deliberate effort to spread misinformation that will persuade persons not to be vaccinated. And it is working. It is working. There are persons who do not even understand why they do not want the vaccine, but they know they don't want it because they've heard something bad about it. Now, all of this is creating a lot of fear and confusion in the minds of persons who don't know better or who don't understand. All right? And there are individuals that are educated, but even they are confused. Even they are confused. And many of them, when you ask, well, you know, why have you not been vaccinated yet? Or so, they repeat the same conspiracies that you see circulating. So even that is concerning. And of course, we have the defiance. Right now, we are against authority, even though we don't know why. So there is strong defiance against whatever authority. It does not matter. If you work for a company, it is your boss or the owners of the company. You are defiant against them, so you are not getting vaccinated, and you wouldn't do this, and you wouldn't do that, and you wouldn't do the other. If you're in the public sector, you are defiant against government. It's just a seemingly uprising against authority in general. Of course, there is some elements of politics in there, and of course, complacency. All right? We have the perception, because we have not had a significant outbreak, many persons don't believe that could ever happen here. Many persons watching or listening right now don't believe what is happening in India or what is happening in Trinidad could ever happen here. All right? Because no matter what, the Ministry of Health will control it, will take care of it, just as we always have. All right? So they don't believe it could ever happen here. And that might be influencing their thoughts as well. They have not been personally affected, so, you know, and also, some just simply can't be bothered. All right? And then there's a small group that just think God is in control, whatever happens will happen. So I will end there. I will end there and pass on to Dr. Charles. And Dr. Charles.
Pleasant good morning to the viewers and the media representatives, and very touching remarks by the Chief Medical Officer as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, COVID-19 is a significant health crisis and a challenge for most countries worldwide. But a pandemic is much more than a health crisis. As Dr. Charles alluded to, it is also an unprecedented socio-economic crisis, and it causes great stress to every one of the countries it has affected thus far. Now, COVID-19, it has the potential to create devastating social and economic effects that will leave deep and long-standing scars that will take a significant time to recover from. And Dr. Charles, made an urgent plea and call for vaccination. Thankfully, the world, Grenada, is at a stage of vaccination. And though COVID-19 is a great health challenge, what we do know is that vaccination is one of the greatest success stories in public health. Vaccination is one of the most effective ways to protect persons from infectious diseases. And we have known this for centuries. And with the COVID-19, it is no different. Vaccination works the same way. And my greatest concern, the mistrust, the hesitancy starts with one vaccine. It can start with a COVID-19 vaccine, and then soon you hear people saying, well, I'm not vaccinating my children against measles. I'm not vaccinating them against mumps or rubella. And then we see a re-emergence of those diseases, right? So I want to urge everyone to get vaccinated, right? Vaccinations are available in Grenada, and we have to be thankful because there are still countries that are having difficulties getting access to vaccines. And we have vaccines here. And we know that vaccination works. And that is the important thing. Vaccination doesn't only protect you, it also protects your loved ones and everyone that is around you. Now, where are we now? To date, Grenada has recorded a total of 161 COVID-19 cases, of which 159 have recovered. There has been a total of 6 hospitalized cases and 1 death. There is 1 active case on island that is imported and is currently in isolation. That person is asymptomatic and continues to be monitored. There is currently 279 persons in quarantine facilities. And to date, we have conducted 27,677 RT-PCR tests. And so far, we have administered over 16,000 AstraZeneca vaccine doses. To break that down, just over 13,000 have received their first dose, and over 3,500 have received their second dose. Right? What does that mean? Over 3,500 persons are considered as fully vaccinated. Now we are a population of just about 112,000. And when you think about it, just only over 3,500 persons have been vaccinated. Right? So that is not quite significant. Right? As Dr. Charles said earlier on, we're still seeing a lot of vaccine hesitancy. Right? And we have addressed most of the concerns from time and time again, and the concerns are indeed valid. But what I want persons to know, right, what we know about the COVID-19 vaccines, and what is very important, to date, it has been shown to reduce transmission by up to 68%. Now, additionally, the other benefits, vaccination significantly protects you from severe illness, it significantly protects you from death, and it significantly protects you from hospitalization. Now, in our context, right, being in a very resource-limited country, right, our call is for prevention. And that is what vaccination is. It is a preventative measure, right? It prevents all of those things I mentioned earlier on. So I want to encourage the persons who are eligible for vaccination to go out there and get vaccinated. I want to encourage you to protect yourselves. Now, a lot of persons may say, well, for instance, globally, they have recorded what? Over 153 million cases with just over 3.5 million deaths. You know, I heard persons saying, well, the survival rate of COVID is high, so I don't need to get vaccinated. No, Grenada is not special, right? Being in a tropical country does not affect the way your body responds to the virus. So I want persons to take that out of their head. Now, if you get COVID-19 today, you do not know how your body will react. You do not know what your outcome will be, right? You may very well have no symptoms, but you can go on the other end of the spectrum and become severely ill. And the worst possible outcome can happen, death. The other thing, you can transmit that virus to your household. You can bring it to your workplace, right? You can even give it to your kids. You do not know how you would react, right? So stop playing Russian roulette with your lives, right? And I encourage you to get vaccinated. It is safe. It is effective. From what we do know, there is a lot of benefits to vaccination. And in our context, prevention is the answer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sean Charles and Dr. Mariana Charles. Colleagues, you've heard from both Dr. Charles. Are you ready with your questions?
Yes, I have question. I have two questions.
Good morning. Go right ahead.
Rena Fair Thomas from Ginian. Any one of the doctors, could you give us a number as it relates to how far would we be, how much more persons we need to get vaccinated in order for us to be immune as a country? I don't know if that's the exact term, if it's immune. And also, at this point, would you say that the amount of persons coming in for vaccination is less than when we first started, or has it grown in any way at all?
Go ahead.
I will just address the first part of that question. Now, you asked about herd immunity, right, which is basically community immunity. Now, herd immunity occurs when a large portion of the community becomes immune to a disease, be it through vaccination or be it through natural infection, right? Now, and what we know so far, at least 70 to 80% of a population must be immune, right, before we can achieve herd immunity. Now, due to herd immunity, what herd immunity does is that it protects the community. It protects the vulnerable people, for instance, that cannot be vaccinated, right? So we're looking at anywhere between 70 to 80,000 persons who are eligible before we can achieve herd immunity. And just to add, let's not get caught up with the concept of herd immunity, right? Especially here. No, because I heard persons say before, well, I'm waiting for herd immunity. If 3,500 persons are fully vaccinated in your country and you need to achieve at least 70 to 80%, we are far from that. So let's not get caught up with that concept. Let us protect ourselves. The call to vaccination is urgent. It is now. We do not have time to wait.
All right, so with regards to the second question, yes, we are seeing significantly less persons coming in for vaccination. When we opened vaccination to the population, we had in excess of 400, 500, 600 persons being vaccinated daily. Now, and that is persons receiving their first dose. Now we are vaccinating just around 300 plus persons per day, and of that, many times it's less than 100 who are receiving their first dose, and the others are getting the second dose of the vaccine. So yes, the number of persons who are coming in for vaccination is less than when we initially started, and it's way below what we would like to see in our population.
Thank you. That's it for now, Rena.
Yes, for now.
Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. Given that you've referred to your concerns about frontline workers not coming forward, can you give us a breakdown as to who are coming forward? You must know by now from the registration and people giving their names, etc. The majority are breaking it down into who's getting vaccinated. The other concern, when you ask people why they're not getting vaccinated, this issue of the blood clot in a very rare number of people. In the rare event that somebody did have that type of blood clot here, are we capable, do we have the medication, etc., for that particular type of blood clot? And my third question deals with the variants that are happening out there in the world that are scaring a lot of people. and they're showing up in younger people. Are we looking at vaccinating children at all in the future? Thank you.
All right, so right now vaccination is opened to all persons that are 18 years of age and above, and who is getting vaccinated varies. We have persons who work on the front lines. We have persons who work in the accommodation sector. We have the elderly. We have a mix of many other individuals. So it's a varied number of persons that are becoming vaccinated at present. I mean, we would like to see better uptake, in particular by our frontline staff in all sectors, whether it be healthcare, accommodation, retail, whichever. Now, with regards to the blood clots, yes, blood clots have been identified as a rare side effect after receiving vaccinations, but this is the factors that contribute to this are being investigated, and the treatment that so far has been identified for this, yes, we do have it, immunoglobulins and steroids and the like. So yes, we do have. Now, with regards to the variants and vaccination of children, the thing is we do not have a vaccine that has been approved for persons under the age of 18 as yet. As you're aware, we are using the AstraZeneca vaccine because this is the vaccine that we have that has been made available to us. It is also one of the first vaccines to receive a WHO emergency use authorization. So we have not embarked on vaccinating children as in many other countries. We have not embarked on this as yet because, in addition, this is not a priority group, and we do not have vaccines that were created to cover this age group as yet.
Linda Stricker, good morning.
Good morning
Go ahead.
to you and the health officials. I have a few questions. Dr. Charles, that's Dr. Sean Charles. You mentioned about hesitancy to testing and possible exposure. You also mentioned about effectiveness at the port of entry. As it stands right now, we have only read in the past couple of weeks about imported cases. Did we have a situation in Grenada where there were possible exposure to COVID and we had persons deciding that I do not want to be tested? That type of defense, what would have led to persons becoming exposed if what we have coming in is persons at the port who are actually caught at the port? Just explain that, provide a little more information on that, please. My other question has to do, as of May 1st, according to a press release issued, I think last week, we now accept 48 hours quarantine for persons who arrive in. Today is the 4th of May. Can you tell us how that has been working so far, and whether or not persons who would have started on May 1st, whether the active case we have now is someone who fell into that category of 48 hours testing? And the final question for now, for the past 2 weeks, more predominantly last week, there's a gentleman who kept calling the radio station and speaking about his daughter who was encouraged to be vaccinated, and she would have gotten very, very unwell. Can you tell us whether or not the ministry would have had any that type of report, and how much persons in Grenada would have showed adverse reaction, whether or not the persons who, if you would have become aware of that case, is it linked to the vaccine, or does that person had other pre-existing condition that could have caused the person to become unwell? I have more, but that's 3 for now.
All right, so if we remember Grenada's entry protocol, persons who enter are quarantined and they are tested before being released. Now, you would have noticed that over the past few weeks, cases have been trickling. You may have one, and then you may have another. So that has been the occurrence. All right, these are persons who traveled into Grenada, and on testing, all right, during our entry process, they were discovered to be positive. Now, whenever we pick up a positive case, remember, this case has to quarantine somewhere. All right, it is either that they are quarantined at a facility, and we know that we use various hotels and guest houses and so on to quarantine persons, or they may have home quarantine. When there is a case that is identified at a facility, a hotel, a guest house, or whichever, all right, we give them special attention. We test staff, all right, because when there's a positive case, we consider there are some staff that are more frontline than others, like persons who do housekeeping and persons who different levels of work that puts them at increased risk of exposure. All right, so we consider them potentially exposed, and we test. All right, we do PCR testing. What we have noticed is that in some instances, some of these staff are just reluctant. They don't want to be tested. All right, they are defiant about being tested, which is worrying, because if you work in a frontline setting where we know of a case that has been identified here, and we make testing available for the staff, all right, as part of a preventive measure, and then in addition, you are reluctant to be tested to verify infection, then it is a grave concern. And these are the real scenarios that we are dealing with. All right, we are not just dealing with individuals who are saying, I will not vaccinate no matter what. Some of these same individuals are saying, you can't test me. All right, so this is the concern that the public needs to be aware of. Up to 48 hours, this new entry policy started on the 1st. All right, so today's only the 4th. And of course, it involves persons who have been fully vaccinated. That is up to 2 weeks after they've received the second dose of their 2-dose vaccine, or 1 dose of the single-dose vaccine. Of course, a number of individuals, I don't have the number here, came in, they quarantined for the period, they got their PCR tests, they got their negative result, and they were released from quarantine, just as the protocol states. The single case that we have, if you have been noticing, this case was discovered a week or two ago, right? A week or two ago. So this case is not related to the change in policy that we had. Yes, we have had reports of adverse effects following vaccination. The majority of persons complained of maybe pain at the injection site, maybe feeling very tired or generally unwell, fever and chills, some headache and so on. These are the more common effects that some persons get. All right, now these are generally felt after the first dose of the vaccine. All right, after the second dose, the reports are minimal. I personally, because I have a personal experience with it, after my first dose, I got just some slight chills and a brief fever that lasted a few hours, and then that was it. After the second dose, absolutely nothing happened. And that has been the experience for many individuals. We have not had any reports of any permanent or disabling side effects following vaccination. All right. Now remember, when persons decide to push information out there, they also push their agenda. All right. So we can have individuals calling or messaging or doing whatever because they are interested in pushing their own agenda. All right. And persons have to see through that kind of thing when they are, synthesizing the information that they receive.
If I could just ask some clarity, Les. Dr. Charles, that specific case that I would have mentioned, I heard on the radio, is your ministry or department aware of it? Because that person seems to be calling maybe every 3 or twice a week. Is the ministry aware of it? And with regard to the testing hesitancy, is there any section of our Public Health Act that or the Constitution can mandate that persons who are possibly exposed to an infectious disease that the law takes its course with them now? Yes. Is there anything provided in law where they are forced to either to take some sort of treatment because they were possibly exposed and not suspect of an infectious disease?
All right, so with regards to the first question, I am not aware that a report was made by the individual in question to the Ministry of Health. The vaccination card that everyone receives, there is a number on there, and there are instructions that if you experience adverse reactions, you should call that number to report it. All right, that number, that goes to our EPI manager, all right, or immunization program manager, all right, and that whatever the adverse effect is recorded. So it would have been the more prudent or wise for the individual to just call the number on the card, report, so that the ministry is informed and so that we can examine, than to go on the radio and try to store up whatever reaction that he's looking for. Right. Now, I am not a legal minder, but I do believe that the Public Health Act does have some provisions for persons with an infectious disease and how they can be removed and isolated and whatnot. I would have to get further advice and review that section to before I can give you a more informed answer.
Thank you. Callistra Faria, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Sean Charles. Can you give me a percentage of the healthcare frontline workers who have not been vaccinated? And also an update on the changes to the quarantine procedure. Now we are moving to 48 hours quarantine for people who are fully vaccinated and carrying a negative PCR test from their country of origin. So an update on that, please.
All right. So I do not have the exact number, but I know that there's a significant number of persons that are working in the healthcare setting who have not been vaccinated. All right, and which is a significant concern for the Ministry of Health. All right, so although I do not have the number, I'm telling you that a significant percentage of these individuals have not been vaccinated, and in fact, they have been reluctant to be vaccinated, which is concern, but that these are the facts. With regards to the change in procedure or the change in protocols for persons coming in, the only change that was made is that which reflects or which relates to persons who have been fully vaccinated. All of the other entry measures remain exactly the same. So if you are unvaccinated, you are expected to continue with the same procedure that we have outlined, which is you must have a negative PCR test within 72 hours of arrival to Grenada. All right, that is taken within 72 hours of your arrival in Grenada. You must obtain travel authorization, which you can make the application on the government's COVID-19, covid19.gov.gd website. You can access the link to get the travel authorization here. Upon landing in Grenada, you will quarantine. You're expected to quarantine, all right, at an approved accommodation for 7 days. For 7 days, and you are tested on the 5th day after arrival. So when you're tested on the 5th day, you are released on or after day 7 to go to your home. Now, when you get to your home, it does not end there, because remember, you have to continue all of the public health measures. All right, you have to limit your activity. You have to wear masks. You have to all of this continues after you exit quarantine. So all of those remain in place. The only changes that were made are for persons who are fully vaccinated. And for those persons who are fully vaccinated, you still must have a negative PCR test within 72 hours of traveling to Grenada. All right, and that is within 72 hours. So it's 72 hours or less. Upon arrival, you have to do your travel, fill in your travel authorization, your travel certificate, apply for it as normal as everyone else. You are tested on arrival. You quarantine for up to 48 hours while we await the result of the PCR test. If the test is negative, then you are released. You are released from quarantine. If it's positive, of course, you would remain in isolation. Now, of course, persons who are traveling in a party where there are vaccinated persons and unvaccinated persons, you're all traveling together, no matter what age. All right, you all travel together. You're not separating. You are treated as an unvaccinated, and that must be emphasized. All right, if you're traveling in a group, all right, and you all stay together, you all are not separating from each other, all right, you will follow the unvaccinated protocol. All right, the same if you travel with minors. Some are vaccinated, some, of course, we don't have vaccines for children yet. You will follow the unvaccinated protocol.
That's it for the time being, Callistra.
Just a second, Cece. Sorry about that. The hesitancy among frontline healthcare workers. How does the ministry plan to overcome that, to deal with that? Because if we have a situation where the healthcare workers are showing hesitancy or mistrust for the vaccine, I am thinking that it might make it a bit more difficult to sell to the rest of the population the message of vaccination. Any particular plans or programs to get healthcare workers vaccinated?
All right, and your observation is correct. The thing is, we hope that once individuals are provided with facts, that facts will convince them. But that is not as straightforward in this instance. The thing is, there are individuals, no matter their level of education or the path that they've chosen for their career and their life, they are also susceptible to being seduced by misinformation, and it is very difficult to alter their course. But we are trying. we are hoping that with education, that we will be able to reach some of these individuals and convince them, because the medical field is a science-based field. All right, and we need individuals to respect the science that they practice. All right, believe in facts and not the misinformation, and this goes for the medical community as well. All right, it may sound a little strange, but it goes for the medical community here as well. You have to start trusting in the science that you know and stop following the misinformation.
That's it, Callistra?
So the position taken by many employers in other areas of frontline, hospitality in particular, where they've not said directly, but created a scenario where workers may get the impression that their employment hinges on vaccination, and a position that appears to be supported, sanctioned by the Prime Minister in his pronouncements that employers have a right to protect their businesses. Now, government is the employer of most of these frontline health workers. So I'm looking for something more specific on what government's position is on those who will not be vaccinated, who work for the government. Because the employer believes that other employers have the right to make vaccination mandatory with employment.
I would say that the government of Grenada is strongly encouraging everyone who is eligible to be vaccinated. Now, we all know that in the public sector, it's never that straightforward or easy. So I would not pretend that it is. The position of the government is that we strongly encourage everyone who is eligible to be vaccinated.
All right.
My final question. I spoke earlier on about an uprising against authority, elements of authority, and politics having a part to play in vaccine hesitancy in Grenada. Were you referring to partisan politics, sir?
Well, I'm referring to, you see, any kind of influence that attempts to, let's say, dissuade or to persuade otherwise. For example, we know that COVID is a public health emergency. We know that vaccination is one of the tools that we have to fight against this public health emergency. Any kind of influence that reaches out to a mass audience and tries to convince them otherwise, just because maybe the government is for it, so we have to oppose it. All right, that is what I'm speaking about. All right? Any kind of attempt at mass influence of the population to not, get vaccinated simply because, if the government is for it, no, we have to be against it no matter what. That is basically what I'm speaking about.
Thank you, Callistra. Dr. Charles, what is the ministry's policy regarding persons with a 14-day travel history from Brazil, India, places like that?
All right, so the thing is, we have not, because we note that, yes, in these countries, the situation is dire, and it's related to different strains that may be circulated and so on. But we have not put out a position, for example, that persons coming from these regions are not allowed into Grenada. This has not been a position that we have put out there as yet. All right. I know that there is discussion, but we do not have a conclusion to put out there to the public as yet.
Somebody's asking on social media, are the children of vaccinated afforded the same courtesy of quarantine on arrival?
All right. As I said before, right now, if you travel with minors, home quarantine is one of the options that is offered to you. However, if a vaccinated parent is traveling with unvaccinated children, they will follow the unvaccinated protocol. All right, which is you come in, you quarantine, tested on day 5, and release.
Okay, colleagues, we're getting closer to wrap up time, but I understand, Linda, you have another question as well as Nancy.
Yes, my question was simply, what Dr. Charles just spoke about. Can you explain to us the rationale for putting mixed group as unvaccinated? Because there are people in it, some might be vaccinated from 1 dose, double dose, and there might be some who are not vaccinated. Explain the rationale by classify everybody as unvaccinated. And my second question is, we would have seen on television, Dr. Charles, of persons, even on Facebook, persons putting up the card that you give to them, that is given to them upon vaccination. It is not just in Grenada, but we see it in the region and we see it internationally as well. What system is in place to confirm that people who are coming in with these cards it is authentic and not fake? And what system is in Grenada to ensure that what Grenada is given to those who are vaccinated is recognized outside as authentic and not fake?
Linda, I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question, please?
Question 1 or question 2?
Sorry.
Both
Sorry,
of them.
it's I just got distracted and then I missed the question. That's why I was asking for
The
it.
first question was why mixed groups are classified as unvaccinated. Whether there are persons who has 1 dose or 2 fully vaccinated, and there are 1 or 2 persons in a group that is unvaccinated, but everybody is now classified as unvaccinated. What's the rationale behind that? And the other question was, persons when they're vaccinated, they would receive this card from the Ministry of Health. I've seen the card from the Ministry of Health Grenada, Ministry of Health Trinidad, and we see things from the US. My question is, what system do we have in place locally to confirm that those who are coming into Grenada with evidence that they have taken full dose or 1 dose, that whatever they present, it is authentic and not a fake document? And in the case of a Grenadian traveling out, what is in the Ministry of Health card that when a person says, say, all right, to another territory, that person who is looking at it could say, this is what is presented from Grenada is authentic and not fake?
Okay, so the first question regarding the mixed groups, I mean, the rationale is simply that there are persons who have not been vaccinated, so they do not carry the same level of protection against the disease. So that's why if you have a mixed group and they cannot be separated, they have to be treated as unvaccinated. All right. The second, with regards to the authenticity of the vaccine cards, so we examine all cards at port of entry, and our health officers have the right to refuse someone on entry or refuse that document if they think that is not authentic. In addition, any document that we believe that is not authentic, we will follow up. We will follow up with the issuing country, with the issuing agency, while that person remains in quarantine. Now, remember, we also test test all of these individuals. All of these individuals get an RT-PCR test on arrival. So we also verify whether that person is infected or not. Now, we issue cards. If an agency overseas has any questions with regards to whether someone from Grenada is vaccinated or not, they can simply make a call to us, because all of the persons who are vaccinated, their information is entered into an electronic system. So upon receipt of a call from any agency internationally, to verify the vaccination status of someone, we simply need to go into the system and pull up the information, and we are able to provide that verification. Most countries use an electronic system to register persons who were vaccinated, and we anticipate that it is going to be the same process.
Nancy, do you have another question? And GBN finally? Nancy Maguire?
Yes. Yes, I do. I just wanted Dr. Charles to let us know how many vaccination doses we have still and how many we are getting. I thought we had like 30,000, but I could be wrong on that. Just to make sure that all that had the first dose are going to have their second. Thank you.
Right, so you're going to assist me in doing some maths today because we received 23,000 doses firstly, and then from COVAX we received 24,000. Now we have vaccinated how many? Over 16,000?
16,000 doses.
We have given out
Yeah.
16,000 doses. So if you subtract the two, you should be able to tell me how many we have. We have quite a number of doses of vaccines remaining.
And additionally, we do have sufficient doses for all the persons who have already received their first dose to get their second dose of the vaccine.
GBN, you have a final question?
Yes, I have a final question.
Go ahead, please.
My question is, Dr. Charles, could you just clarify for me? Earlier on, you were speaking about persons who refused to get tested, whether they was exposed to COVID-19. Just to clarify, if someone is exposed to anyone who may have had the virus, isn't it mandatory for someone to get tested because that person could be potentially exposing other persons in the public? Isn't it mandatory for somebody to get vaccinated, or not vaccinated, but tested?
Well, on our part, yes, it is, because that is the only way we are going to verify whether the person was infected or not. However, like I say, some of these individuals, they are resistant. And that is simply the challenge that we are faced with right now. So the defiance that you're seeing out there, and I think I mentioned defiance many, many times. You see, it starts one place and it spills over into the other. All right? So we are seeing persons who are defiant and resistant to being vaccinated. And we are also now seeing persons that are defiant and are resistant to being tested after a potential exposure to COVID. So right now what we have is the perfect formula for a massive outbreak in Grenada. And if the public does not understand that right now, if anyone does not understand that right now, we have the formula right now. We have the conditions right now for there to be an outbreak. We have low immunity, high hesitancy to the vaccination, limited number of persons getting vaccinated. Persons are resistant, they're combative, they're fighting, they're doing everything in their power. And in addition, walk through St. George's with your camera one day. Physically count how many persons are wearing a mask. All right? If the public does not understand that we have all of the conditions right now for there to be a massive outbreak in Grenada, if you understand this now, all right, I'm seeing it. All right, we have the conditions, all of the conditions for there to be an outbreak of COVID. If we do not, alter our course. All right, we are going to continue to do our best to ensure that we delay as much as possible this scenario. But we need your help. We need everyone's help.
All right, Callistra, you have a final question, and then we'll wrap things up. Callistra?
Yes, I may have to shelve the original question for the issue that just came up. Dr. Sean Charles, under our Public Health Act and the health state of emergency and so in the country, do people have a choice in testing? And the people you have encountered so far who have resisted, what have you done?
Like I say, I would have to go and peruse the Public Health Act to see, in this instance, if people have a choice in the matter. But remember, these are the same individuals that are saying it is my right. These are the same individuals that are shouting out and say, you can't tell me to vaccinate. So this is the issue. This is unfortunately the issue that we are facing. What we have done in these instances is that these individuals need to be separated from their work. All right, because they cannot continue to be around others and continue to potentially be a risk, because until we have your test result that say that you're negative, you have to stay away. All right, we can quarantine you, recommend that you quarantine for up to 14 days after, and so on. You understand? I hope at least you understand the challenges and that we are facing right now.
All right, colleagues, thank you so very much. You still have another question, Callistra? You have another question?
But I just wanted to quickly raise the issue of Dr. Sean Charles spoke of the situation in St. George's, and I raised this with the Minister of Health a few days ago, that we don't seem to be following the precautions anymore, and particularly at the bus port, the bus terminus in town, where now that school is back in session, you have scores of children and other commuters piled up there, very negligible amount of people wearing masks. And I see no effort on the part of the police, because I've been looking into this, and I see no effort on the part of the police to enforce the regulations that are still in place. And I'm asking, why does the ministry appear not to be as stringent now with the preventative side of COVID?
The ministry continues to recommend. Remember when I was speaking earlier and I said that given what we know and given the resources that we have, prevention is our best strategy. All right? I also spoke about the mood of defiance against all kinds of forms of authority right now. All right? So I think that there are many factors that you must consider. Because, one, you do not want to appear to, your actions, you further escalate the mood that we all know that is occurring in the community right now. All right? Because if the police were to go to town right now and start issuing tickets to everyone that is not wearing a mask, I know the media is gonna be covering all of these individuals irate and complaining that, they were issued a ticket for no reason. All right? So we have to understand where we are. We continue to encourage personal responsibility. You do not need a law or a stick to encourage you to adopt measures to protect your own selves. Our police has to fight crime and do all the other things that we expect of law enforcement. All right? But in addition to be there every day, just chasing after someone to wear a mask to protect their own self, I find it is kind of a misuse of resources, and it's scarce resources that we know that we don't have a lot of to go around. So it has to go back to personal responsibility no matter what. Because if you are here enforcing in town and you go up into the countryside, you meet a worse scenario. Nobody is as if it's a different world. Nobody is wearing masks. Nobody is anything. So it's a perpetual situation. Persons have to take responsibility for themselves. Now, one update that I wanted to give. And yes, now we have taken a decision to alter from those countries, India, Brazil, persons leaving those countries and entering. So yes, a decision has been taken in that direction. Right.
So that takes effect?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Please, thank you.
Good morning to everyone, and excuse the interruption. Just inform that on the advice of the COVID committee and the Chief Medical Officer, Cabinet has decided that there will be, effective immediately, a travel ban for persons with a 14-day travel history from India and Brazil. Means that no one with a 14-day travel history from India or Brazil will be allowed to enter Grenada. Persons will have to spend the relevant time in a third-party state that will allow them to enter. That takes effect with immediate, as of today. Thank you, and again, sorry for the interruption. But we were deliberating it, and I believed it was necessary also because of the question the CMO got, and he did not have clearance on his recommendation, but he does now have clearance on his recommendation. Thank you.
All right, colleagues and viewers, thank you so much. So we had a little different ending here today. So we have come to the end. So I'll give you Dr. Sean Charles and Dr. Mayana Charles. I'll start with Dr. Mayana Charles, the opportunity to say any final words that you have, and then we'll come to Dr. Sean Charles.
I would just like to encourage the general public, encourage the persons who are eligible for vaccination to go there and get vaccinated. Currently, we are located at the National Stadium, Section B, and we'll be there from 9 to 2 from Monday to Friday. You can also get vaccinated at any one of the health centers, right? To facilitate the process, I would encourage persons to call in advance and make arrangements. Now, to end, I would like to just remind persons that vaccination carries significant benefit. Right? It protects you from severe illness, it protects you from death, it protects you from hospitalization. And recent studies have shown that it reduces transmission by up to 68%, which is quite significant. So again, let's go out there and get vaccinated. Right? I am not safe. You are not safe until we are all safe. Remember, this is a collaborative effort. Right? We are in this together.
Thank you. Dr. Sean Charles?
All right. I would just like to encourage everyone to continue to be vigilant, continue to observe all of the public health protocols that we have been using for over a year now to ensure that, we are all safe. Continue to, seek truth. All right? Seek truth, not the misinformation. Continue to work along with us. All right, we have achieved what we have been able to achieve with the support of everyone. All right, let us not throw all of that away right now, especially since we have come so far, and the future is actually looking very good for us. I want to remind everyone that COVID is serious. COVID is the threat. All right? COVID is serious and COVID is a threat. Pay attention to what is happening overseas. The vaccine is not the enemy. All right? As many have made it out to be. The vaccine is not the enemy. It is COVID. It has been COVID. It is still COVID, and it will be COVID tomorrow, at least until we are able to control this pandemic in the world. All right? I just want to encourage everyone to be safe. If you're eligible, get vaccinated. And I just want to encourage everyone to do the responsible thing to protect yourself. No one should tell you to wear a mask to enter public transportation or to enter a store or anything like that. All right? No one should have to remind you to sanitize. All right? These are all things that you should do for yourself to protect yourself. All right? So just stay safe, and let's all continue to do our best to ensure that we all remain safe.
Thank you, Dr. Sean Charles, and the Chief Medical Officer, as well as Dr. Mayana Charles. And of course, thank you to the Honorable Minister Nicholas Steele, Minister for Health and Social Security, who popped in to give us some brief information here for you. Colleagues, thank you so much for all of you joining us on Zoom, for all the viewers joining us via Channel 22, our Facebook page, and of course, the YouTube channel as well. Now, a lot has been said here this morning as we keep going over this issue to ensure that people understand the importance of being vaccinated. While, of course, it has been said that you have your right, we still need to do what is best for us to ensure that the country returns to some state of normalcy. Now, something that Dr. Sean Charles said, we have the perfect formula for a massive outbreak because of our defiance and not adhering to the protocols. If that doesn't scare you, well, I don't know what will. Have a blessed day, everybody. Thank you so much.